Welcome to the Creator Archive. I'm Kaden Formaster, host of the podcast, and I gotta say thank you so much for supporting me through episode 1. And here we are in episode 2. All of you that either watched on YouTube, whether you listen to the podcasts, wherever it is that you find your podcasts, whatever it was, I'm so grateful for those of you that reached out, left encouraging messages, and told me that you listened or watched the show. So I'm very grateful for that. Here we are in episode 2. With episode 2, we got a great guest coming up. I'm so excited for you guys to be able to take a listen to what we have in store for you today. Coming up afterwards, we're going to kind of recap a little bit about the interview and talk about some of the things in the social media world that are really pressing right now and in the creator space. So that's all coming up in today's show. But without further ado, let's get into our guest. Today's guest is Utah radio personality, well known for quirky takes on Utah culture. You've heard him on Planet 105.1 Morning Show, Mikey and the Missus, and you've seen him on Instagram, TikTok. It's Mikey Foley, everybody.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome to the show. First guest, by the way.
First ever?
First ever.
Cool.
Listen, this is episode 2.
Oh, all right.
So we're just getting rolling here. But I'm getting you on first.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I figure since we're both on the same radio station, I'm like, it actually kind of makes sense.
Might as well just walk a couple of feet over and
literally
get a guess.
through a wall. Right now we're in our sports studio in the radio station. Planet 105.1's on the other side of the wall over there.
But most of the screaming in the morning comes from this room, from the sports station.
Yeah, that's not my show.
No.
That's the other show.
That's the other guy.
And that's actually pretty accurate.
I know.
That's fair.
I have no idea what he's on, but it's working. He sounds like a morning person.
You know, I'd like to say it's just coffee, but who knows?
Who knows? The less we know, the better.
That's right. Well, to get things started, first question I have for you is, what is it like to be named after WWE wrestler Mick Foley? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, whenever anybody Googles me, and when I say anybody, I mean me. Whenever I Google myself, it comes up as Mick Foley, like all the time. But no, I am not the wrestler Mick Foley. So if you were listening to this thinking that this is who the interview is with, no.
Did you ever watch wrestling at all growing up?
Heck yeah.
And did you ever see him and be like, that's my guy?
You know,
he's almost me.
He was after when I was watching wrestling. I was watching wrestling in the golden era of Hulk Hogan before we knew he was crazy. And like Andre the Giant and Rowdy Piper, that kind of stuff. 'Cause everybody was into that. Everybody loved it. And I would go to my rich friend's house and watch WrestleMania because I couldn't afford it.
No, not on pay-per-view.
I didn't have cable. That was for rich people.
Yeah. Me and my brother growing up. Now, remember, this is later years, so this is like the John Cena era.
Right.
My grandpa loved wrestling.
Really?
And he called it wrestling. It was great.
Wrestling.
And so my grandma hated it, right? Mm-hmm. And so he had this little back bedroom where he had this tiny little old TV. Remember, this is pre-flat screen days, too.
Not sketchy at all.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my brother, we'd go sit in this back room with my grandpa and watch wrestling every single week on Mondays and on Fridays. Mondays and Fridays, we'd go and we'd watch wrestling with my grandpa.
Yeah.
And on this tiny TV, and the room had no insulation. It was so cold all the time. We had this little floor heater, but that's what we would do. It was
totally worth it.
Just sit there and watch wrestling with my grandpa because my mom hated it, my grandma hated it.
Sure.
So us boys found a tiny room in the back of my grandpa's house.
Now, did you ever fight other people and assert that it was real?
Not me. I was a very small child, so I would have lost.
Right. Well, yeah. I thought it was totally real until I had a fully functioning frontal cortex, and then
I did used to argue with people a little bit and be like, "No, it's totally real." Like I saw a guy get hit with a chair. I mean, come on.
It's a soap operas for boys.
Yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah,
so that's fine.
I loved it. I used to watch a lot of it growing up.
So long story short, no, I'm not Mick Foley. Thanks for asking.
You're not Mick Foley. You are Mikey. Mikey and the Missus on the radio. They might know Mikey and the Missus from Instagram, TikTok, which may or may not be dying.
Yeah.
And all over the place. I kind of want to go back for you, though, because we will get to all the stuff you're doing now.
Sure.
But obviously, this whole podcast is about being creative and unleashing your creativity a little bit. When do you feel like for you that really was something that kind of started in your life, was just being like down the road of like, hey, I want to do creative things?
You know, there has never, and I mean this, there's never once been a time in my life that I even considered doing something other than being in the creative arts. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a kid actor. Like when I was younger, I really, really wanted to be on a sitcom, like so bad. And my mom would never get me an agent or anything like that. Growing up in Michigan, I was pretty far removed from anything creative. But I always knew that I wanted to be on TV getting attention from strangers. That was all I wanted to do, you know, like all the time. And so, yeah, I can't remember a time where I didn't want to do it.
So what were some of the first things that you started to do to at least attempt to reach that goal? Was it like elementary school plays or
in fifth grade, I did my first play, and I was just an extra in this community theater show of where I forgot what the name of it was, but I was in the background, and I was constantly getting in trouble because I was constantly trying to steal the scene, but I friggin' loved it. Just just standing on a stage, getting up on the stage, and looking out into a bunch of people was like better than crack cocaine for like fifth grade on. Like it was all I wanted to do. And so I was in every play that I could possibly be in, and learning just how to be a better actor for as long as I can remember. And
Now this was in Detroit, right? Or in Michigan,
in
Detroit
Michigan
area. Because I do know that you moved. We're obviously in Utah, but you moved to Las Vegas at some point. How old are you moved to Las Vegas?
I was 15 when I moved to Vegas. Now, in Michigan, if you're not in sports, you were suspected of being gay, which now isn't. You're like, who cares?
Yeah.
But like in a closed-minded society like Michigan in the 80s, it was a death sentence. So I was beat up a lot. I was constantly chased down, got whitewashes and snow. I mean, it was terrible. But then I went to Las Vegas after my parents got a divorce. We moved out to Las Vegas, and I saw an actual theater in a high school, and I was like, what? Like, what? Because our stage was built into the gym, and the basketball players would just go in there and pee all over our sets. And when we would complain to the principal, he, honest to goodness, would just go, sorry, there's a playoff game coming up. Nothing I can do. And that was the society I was from. And then I saw a theater in a school, and no one was getting beat up for being in theater. Like, people liked it. I was like, this is insane. And that was in the regular school Bonanza. And then I went to a performing arts academy.
What was that like, being in a performing arts academy? Because, again, you talk about that's something you always kind of wanted to do, and then being surrounded by that every day. What was that like?
It was like being on an island of misfit toys, and it was wonderful.
Because it just fit.
It just fit.
You don't fit this mold, but now you're somewhere where you fit the mold.
Right. So I went to the academy, and I looked out. It used to be a regular high school, Las Vegas High, and I guess it was too dangerous to keep going, and because it was in a really bad part of town. And but then they were like, hey, what if we just fill it with a bunch of weirdos? And then they reopened it. But looking at what used to be a football field is just now decrepit and disrepair, I was like, this is beautiful. I'm home. I can't be hurt here. And it was true. Never had a fight. Anyone. Never had a fist fight in that school. And it was just great. So, I went to school when it was dark in the morning, and I left when it was dark at night, because it was an 8-hour school day, plus lots of rehearsal, recording projects, directing and writing and all of that stuff. It was awesome.
Did you have I assume that there were a lot of different avenues inside of that school that you had opportunities to maybe try to pursue more, whether it was on stage or being kind of backstage stuff or whatever. What were some of the things that you were like, this is kind of the fit for me?
Musical theater.
Okay.
Was where I found, because I could act. I could naturally act, and I had a sense of pitch. I wasn't the best singer in the world, but I could act and I could sing. Could not dance, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So musical theater was the best, because I could enjoy emoting emotion using words and using music and things like that. It was just perfect. And to this day, I'm a big musical theater dork. You know?
So Wicked was like,
it was beautiful,
awesome,
so good. I loved Wicked. Yeah. It was just absolutely great. Yeah, but I wasn't one of those jerks who sang along. I'm not a total D-bag. But yeah, I wanted to.
Yeah. I watched it. I didn't know anything about it going into it.
Really?
Like I knew the basic story. Obviously, I've seen Wizard of Oz. I knew the basics. So I went into it semi-blind, as semi-blind as you could for a show that's been out for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know? And I loved it. I thought it was great. They did a fantastic job. I can't wait for the second part later this year.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Phenomenal. Well, that's cool. So post-high school, what's kind of the story there between, I feel like there's a spot that I don't know much between high school to like the radio world.
Yeah. The dark ages.
You could give me a quick synopsis of like, what were you doing? What were you doing to make money during those days?
Yeah.
Like, what were the jobs? What were kind of the things that you did throughout that time?
Well, I performed at the International Thespian Conference, which is like it's a theater. Thespian means actor. And I was performing there, and then I got invited to go to the Mount View Conservatory for the Arts in London.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was super pumped to go. And then I took out a calculator and figured out dollars to pounds. Could not make it. So that wasn't going to happen. So I applied for a scholarship at Southern Utah University. So I went there for theater for 1 year. And then got a summer job at Tuacahn Amphitheater performing in a play there. And then I met a girl, and through our courtship, she convinced me that a good thing to do is to go on a mission. I was LDS at the time, Mormon. And so I was like, yeah, I might as well. So I put on a name tag, and then I was a missionary for a couple of years.
Where'd you go?
I went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, almost home.
It's just, I know, man. I grew up in Michigan, then went to Milwaukee. I was like, well, God hates me. And so I went there, and it was freezing cold, and everyone hated us. And I've never, to this day, been more depressed than I was during those 2 years. It's
rough.
It was the coldest hell that I could possibly have been in. But
And you weren't drunk during any of it, so
no,
you couldn't
I couldn't
warm
even
up.
get hammered. Usually when people live in Wisconsin, that's how they deal with living in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is like the highest alcohol rated state in the union. So
totally believe it.
So that's fair. That's fair.
Everything is sponsored by Miller. Like no matter, even the children's
the daycare.
Yeah, like
brought to you by Miller.
The Children's Museum is like the Miller Children's Museum. Like there's no self-awareness in that town. It's so crazy. Funny. But I did grow to really like the town. I just hated my job in it.
Sure.
And so anyway, came home and got married. And that lasted about a year. And during that time is when my creative dreams died. Because when you're married, you got to pay for stuff. And so I was doing like 3 jobs at the time and just whatever would pay me. So I was working at Lowe's, which sucked. I was working, in the box office, that sucked. Robotics factory, that sucked. But I was just trying to pay the bills. And it was around that time where I said, okay, there go my dreams. It's time to just pay for stuff. And it was terrible. And then I got a divorce, but we had a child, so I had to pay for the kid. And so I started taking jobs like customer service, and then I got remarried, had another kid, and then started working in all of these places that I hated. Not hated. I was in sales for a technology company. which was all right. It paid the bills.
Yeah.
It wasn't my dream or anything, but they treated me really well. And then there was a higher paying job selling tires for Michelin. And there was a 90-day training period. And on day 88, they gave me a call to let me know that I was not a good fit for the company and that I was, quote unquote, too outgoing to sell tires.
That seems so backwards. You're too outgoing to be a salesperson.
But I know. I was confused at the time and totally wrecked because I'm screwed. I've got 3 kids at this point, and I've got a mortgage. And they're like, sorry, you're too outgoing to sell tires. And so I was like, that's stupid. In hindsight, they were 100% right. I did not get along with truck drivers. And that was the people that I was supposed to be, dealing with. And they all thought that I was a fruitcake. And so, whatever. Those are the dark ages where I was just taking jobs and I gave up.
You're just getting by
on creativity. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this is pre-social media, smartphones. It's if you wanted to go out there and really be creative on a budget, it wasn't really possible.
No, YouTube wasn't really taking off.
Yeah.
At this time, and so here's how I got into radio.
Yeah, let's get to that.
So right after being fired for being too outgoing to sell tires, I'm just driving around town and I hear on the radio, we're looking for an outgoing personality. They use the word outgoing personality.
You're like, I just got fired for being
to be on the radio. And I was like, I'm so outgoing, I've been fired for it. So I
that should be your pitch. That's your elevator pitch.
Yeah. So I drove over to the radio station, consulted no one, didn't even call my wife, nothing. I just drove over to the radio station, went up to the top floor, and I said, hi, I'm here for the radio gig. And he was like, well, do you have any experience? I said, no, but I'm really funny. Like I was bluffing. Like,
you're just like, I am the person for you need.
Yeah. I'm going to pretend I have a lot of confidence. And the guy looked at me for a little bit and went, all right, you're on Friday. Let's see what you got. Cool. So I woke up early morning, told all my friends, be listening, Yeah. And then I went on Friday morning and I did a good enough job that the co-host was impressed. The bosses were not. The co-host was impressed. And her name is Robin. Shout out to Robin. And she kept pushing for me for like 2 months through all of the objections. And I finally got the gig. And I've been on the radio for over 10 years now.
Wow.
So.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
At what point in the radio gig did your wife come into it? Because now it's Mikey and the Missus.
Yeah.
And so obviously she at some point became the co-host.
Yeah. When I first started, it was Robin and Mikey, and I was Michael at first, and then my co-host, very wisely, Robin, just goes, go with Mikey. It's more playful. It's younger sounding, and it's better for the radio. It's like, okay, fine. So I did that, and then I was moved over to another station down the hall because I would play characters on the other station. Sometimes I would just walk in with a third mic and just pretend I was these ridiculous people, like the Southern Utah Decency Council or something like that. And I would like go in and complain about dirty jokes and stuff like that, like, I have a problem with the word kumquat, stuff like that. And, but then one of the hosts there, Rob, he quit. Then I took his place. So then it was the Des and Mikey show. And then my co-host, Des, she quit. And so then I was alone on the radio doing a morning show. And so then I started auditioning other people to come in. And there were a lot of pretty good ones, but nothing that was really hitting it. And then one morning I was by myself and I was just sick of talking to myself. So I told my wife, hey, can you come in and just, so I'm not talking to the wall? And she's like, sure. So she came in and then made fun of me really, really well on the radio. And the phone line started lighting up. I mean, she was making small penis jokes. She was just ripping me to ribbons and everybody loved it. And the bosses were listening in too. So they were like, you bring her in tomorrow. Bring her in again, and just over and over again. And then I just started thinking, oh, what did I do? But I started to figure out this is a great idea. This really works. And so it became the Mikey and the Mrs. show. So
That's
there
awesome.
you go.
So it's just something that's continued on to this day. It's still you guys are still rolling.
It's still going. Yeah.
We've changed locations in that time, but for you though, I mean, radio has been obviously a huge creative outlet.
Yeah.
And really just the thing to kind of get those juices and that fire going again, right?
Yeah.
But that does transition into the social media world as well, because radio is one thing, right? But obviously social media is another, where you're able to take some things that maybe don't work on radio, and you can still put it to use somewhere else. So what was kind of the start of that like for you, to where you're like, hey, I want to make some funny posts, some funny videos, and let's put it online?
Well, since I was a kid, I always thought it would be cool to have a kids show. Like I really idolized and still do Pee Wee Herman, Mr. Rogers, all of these things. I thought it would be so much fun to do that. But of course, to have a TV show is like so difficult. When you're on the radio, you are broadcasting just your voice. And once it's over, it's over. And nobody knows what you'll look like. Nobody knows any of those kinds of things. Me being the attention hog that I am, I thought, why am I limiting myself to just in the morning and just my voice? I've got ideas that'll be pretty funny if I could present them online. Go to where people are. A lot of people don't listen to the radio these days. So I've got to find where they are. And that would be social media. So, I just always thought this is a great way to entertain people. I mean, just like Jimmy Fallon. If you look at Jimmy Fallon, I don't watch The Tonight Show. I'm not staying up late at night. I don't even have broadcast TV. But I know The Tonight Show. I know his best bits. I know when he's got guests on, and I know it's a big deal. Why? Because of social media. So I thought, I'll do that with the radio. Time to just get out our best bits onto Spotify on a podcast. And when I've got a funny thing to do on the air, I make sure that the Planet 105.1 logo is in it as well. So I'm also plugging the station and just having fun. So, I've just always wanted to be in front of people and make them laugh.
Yeah. So your most popular bit on social media right now, probably Your Mom's So Mormon.
Yeah.
Where did the idea for this come from?
Well, I know in the 90s we used to do Your Mama's So Fat jokes and Your Mama's So Stupid jokes and stuff like that. And I'm not sure what the genesis of it was, but I think I was just walking the dog one day, and I for some reason remembered Your Mama's So Fat jokes and just thinking, well, those are mean. But what is something local that I could do that has the same kind of feeling to it? And I just came up with Your Mama's So Mormon. And it's kind of along the same lines of, you're a redneck if. Because when I hear, you're a redneck if jokes, they're pure fantasy, because I have nothing in common with redneck stuff. But I do know plenty of people who listen to that and go, oh, man, you really hit it right on the head with me and my family.
That's Uncle Dale. Whatever it is.
But for some reason, it's funny to me not being redneck, and it's funny to people who are redneck. So I thought I could probably do the same thing with Mormonism. Let's do it. You know, and so
especially living in a place in Utah where it's 60% Mormon community here.
Yeah.
You're hitting the majority of people in Utah.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, they know the culture.
Right.
So really, you're still hitting 100% of Utah.
Yeah.
Just because they know about it.
Well, a lot of the idiosyncrasies that Mormon moms have, Christian moms have.
Yeah, it extends past the borders of Utah.
Yeah, I mean, the purity culture isn't just in Mormonism. I mean, freaking out about a girl showing her bare shoulders is not uniquely Mormon. That's also true in the South and a lot of these, super fundy Christian families too. And there's a huge ex-Mormon and fundamentalist group out there. But the thing is that because I'm on the radio in Southern Utah, I'm not so stupid as to offend
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make Mormon jokes not at the expense of deeply held beliefs, but just of, hey, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So I know where the line is being raised Mormon, what's offensive and what's funny. And so my goal is to kind of straddle that line so that ex-Mormons are laughing and current Mormons are laughing and never Mormons are laughing. And nobody's getting hurt.
Yeah.
Because that's my main thing is that I don't know if Mel Brooks said it or if it's just been credited to him, but I go by the Mel Brooks rule, which is if it hurts, it's not funny. And so as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, let's have some fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to go about it because there are things where you could hurt people, but like you say, you know what to steer clear from anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not that hard.
I'm not interested in making someone feel bad or get defensive about stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, an example would be, your mom is so Mormon, she calls the coffee table the hot chocolate table, right?
Right.
Something like that where it's just like,
so
it's
stupid.
a part of, it's a social thing. It's a cultural thing. We all kind of know what it is. It's funny.
Yeah.
And some person out there is going to be like, no, but that really happened. Like that's legit.
No matter how insane I get with the jokes, there's always like 3 or 4 in the comment section that go, no, actually my mom did that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow.
You're like, oh, I mean, I was just joking, but okay.
How about that? But I want to make these jokes so that even if the Mormon mom who did name the coffee table a hot chocolate table would look at it and go, haha, and not feel attacked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my main goal.
Yeah, you're poking fun, but also it's like, hey, you know what? Some of these apply to me too, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite online bit that you've done? Obviously, that's one of them. You've got the Southern ant that's in Hobby Lobby.
Yeah. And
kind of anything in between. I mean, which one's kind of been your favorite go-to where it's like, oh, if I get the chance to do this one's fun.
You know what? Whenever here's the thing is that whenever I feel the most passionate about a video, those 8 times out of 10 flop. Whenever I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Yeah. And then I put it out there, it's just like nobody cares. Like I spent like 2 days in front of a green screen doing this stupid bit about how much I love the Carpenters, the like on top of the world and stuff. I worked so hard on that and I was like, this thing is going to go huge. Nope. So usually the things that really take off are the things that I didn't think enough about. And I just went, this is funny. I'm going to throw it out there and who cares?
Yeah.
And then it goes boom and then it explodes. So I think like my character of Aunt Dixie, your Southern aunt that goes to Hobby Lobby, that came about with me just looking at a bunch of these stupid wooden Jesus signs at Hobby Lobby because I was just trying to kill time because my wife is looking at all this crap that I'm not interested in. So I went off on my own and just started making fun of these signs and just be like, coffee and Jesus are served here. Because I always read them in that voice in my head. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to go around do something stupid.
You're like, it's funny. And I'm just going to say it in that voice and be like,
just killing time.
Yeah.
Then I put it on the internet, and all of these Christian fundamentalists in the South think it's the best. And they start sending it out to everybody else and going, I'm in Alabama. This is fantastic. Like, this is me. And I know it's great when the person I'm parodying thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
And then I like, know that
you're referencing me.
Yeah.
I feel so seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and just like the Mormon jokes, I went to an open house at the temple, at the LDS temple here in town. And because it's the only way they'll let me in now. So I went there and a bunch of these little old ladies, these patrons, recognized me from Your Mom Is So Mormon things. And they came up to me and very reverently, because it's in the temple, they're like, we love your videos. And I was like, thank you. Like, that's the highest compliment ever.
Yeah.
You know, but no, my favorite things are probably acting like a ding dong at Hobby Lobby and the Your Mama So Mormon. Yeah, they're an awful lot of fun.
Yeah. You've really gotten into doing some long form stuff with YouTube as well, which maybe a lot of people don't know about because they do see you a lot more on Instagram or obviously hear you on the radio. But I've watched a lot of the stuff over the last year you've been putting out, and I think it's good quality content. And what's it like to do some of that long form stuff? Because that's very different than just a quick hitter Instagram video that takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
YouTube is so much harder than Instagram and TikTok. And I have poured, so there's a perfect example of what I was saying before. I've poured the most work into my long form YouTube videos, and they are they don't go anywhere.
It's hard.
They are just parked in one spot. And it's hard. It's hard to keep people's attention or to make them interested. But, that I've got 1,000 subscribers now, but that was and that feels like a big milestone, doesn't it? Yeah. I got 1,000 subscribers on Instagram just by farting into a microphone. You can, that's easy. But on YouTube, way harder. But I have a lot of fun on it.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. YouTube's fun. Doing this podcast, I've even thought, okay, well, I want to release video form of the podcast on YouTube just because I'm like, hey, it's different when you get to see facial expressions and it's just different than just listening. Well, but even that, I mean, you'll go and get 6 viewers on a YouTube video or something when you're first starting out and be like, oh man, I suck.
It's really discouraging.
It's really tough. But then again, it's like, okay, well, who even knows about it? How are we marketing this? And that's another part with being creative too, is you can be creative and not market anything and just feel like it's not going well. But then all of a sudden you get one thing that works and it's like, okay, no, never mind. There's that level of success I was kind of looking for, but you just never know what's going to catch.
Right. And there's
really hard.
So many traps to it because you look at what does take off and now you're under the pressure of going, oh, maybe I just need to keep doing that.
Like that's got to be my
thing.
shtick now.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people know me as the Your Mama's So Mormon guy, which I'm fine with, but I can do other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when I do the other stuff, it doesn't go as far. But on YouTube, the biggest problem is there are so many creators that make absolute garbage that are huge.
Yeah.
I mean, the algorithm is rewarding crap at such a high level that it's so discouraging because you're like, maybe I could pump out garbage and make it, but there goes my soul. So what do I do? You know what I mean? And so, but being true to myself and putting that out there doesn't go anywhere. And then you get self-conscious about it. Is my actual personality that off-putting? Am I really a genuinely terrible person to look at? It turns out, it turns into high school again. It just sucks.
Yeah,
it just sucks.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a hard thing to try to overcome, to try to deal with. But then you go and look at the Instagram numbers, and it's like, no, actually, I'm kind of killing it over there.
Yeah,
right. And so it's give and take. Every platform's got its own thing.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, TikTok obviously is one of those platforms where you could have one video and it blows up overnight, and all of a sudden you're TikTok famous. But with the TikTok ban coming around, it's like, okay, now what? For all of these TikTok creators, what's kind of your opinion on that? I know you and I had actually talked about this outside of recording just the other day, maybe it was even just yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is going to affect people's lives in a way that I think, when it comes down to governments, they just do not recognize.
No. Well, and the problem is that if you ever want to really lose faith in the government, all you got to do is just listen to a Senate hearing that has anything to do with the internet at all.
Yeah.
And you realize that these old dumb boomers have no idea what is going on right under their nose. And these are the guys who are making decisions like shutting down TikTok without telling us why. They can't explain it to us because they don't get it, because they're dumb. And it's very, very frustrating. Is there an actual problem with TikTok? And are we in danger? I don't know. Because they're saying, oh, it's too classified, which just sends up all these red flags, which goes, okay, well, clearly you're just in it with Meta and trying to squash competition. That's what's going on. And you're blaming spyware or something. You don't even know how that works. And so there's a lot of distrust among people who make a living on TikTok. But at the same time, TikTok has been quite a source of brain rot for a lot of us. And I'm not terribly sad to see it go because it has turned into, from this thing that was fun and being a creative outlet, has slowly, just like every other platform ever, has slowly turned into a propaganda machine of people spreading nonsense. And, nothing kills a website quite like two things. Boomers, which as soon as they get on, it turns into just hell.
Facebook.
Yeah, it turns into Facebook. I don't go to Facebook anymore. I can't handle it.
I don't know anybody under the age of 50 who regularly is on Facebook.
Right.
At least in a non-ironic way.
Right.
Know?
I'm not gullible enough to enjoy Facebook. It's just crap now.
Yeah.
AI-generated nonsense.
Yeah.
And political toilet. It is a giant toilet bowl of political nonsense that has no bearing in reality at all.
Yeah.
And there's that. And then the other thing that always kills it, well, there's the bots, but companies. Yeah. Once a company goes public, it turns to garbage because they get so wrapped up in how do we grab more of your attention because we need to make more money today than we did yesterday. And that is their only morality.
Right.
And so, TikTok has been a source of a lot of brain rot and a lot of, oh my gosh, I am amazed at this product that I'm being paid to tell you about.
Yeah. I see that sponsored in the bottom corner, and it's an immediate skip.
I'm out.
I'm like, it could be a great video. I'll skip it. I'll skip it.
But there's no trust in that.
No,
it's gone. And so I have a rule that if I ever make a video that also incorporates a paid sponsorship, it better not suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, just those generic videos where you're like, oh my gosh, the other day I was doing this, and I got to tell you, this product saved my life. It's like we've all heard the pitch.
But here's
for
the thing.
Every single product out there.
Through the radio station, we have paid sponsorships. I make videos over at, a car dealership, for example, and I try to make them as entertaining as possible. But still, it doesn't matter. The minute that people realize that this is an ad, they're gone. You look at the analytics, they're
never as good.
They're gone. The minute I start talking about APR financing, they're gone.
Yeah.
And so I try to pack it with as many jokes for the 10 people who hung on to watch it. But it's really a tough gig. It's a tough thing to do.
It is. But it's what pays the bills at the same time. So I understand why people do it, but it's it's one of those necessary evils.
Yeah. But when you're watching a YouTube video, once they go, which reminds me about our sponsor, blah, blah, VPN.
Yeah.
You skip ahead until it's over. It doesn't matter how funny it is. You skip over it till it's over. Yeah. And it's really tough.
And the second those actual ads come on, you just can't wait to hit the skip button.
Uh-huh.
You're just sitting by.
Yeah.
So
that's like the same is true with the radio. So if we have a sponsor, we try to incorporate it into the show itself and not be a break from the sponsor, but rather incorporate it into a game that's really, really fun.
Sure.
To play or to listen to. And so that's how that works. But
right. And that's the thing.
It's a tough bargain.
Part of being creative is also figuring out how to pay the bills to be creative.
Yeah.
And that means getting very creative when it comes to presenting those sponsors.
Yep.
And like you say, in radio, there's good ways to do it. There's bad ways to do it. Part of my job is creating just regular ads that run during an ad break. And I got to tell you, the monotonous, just here's a script.
Yeah.
Someone read it and slap some music on it.
Your one-stop shop,
boring.
Conveniently located.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
The amount of scripts that are just the same thing said a little bit differently because it's a slightly different company.
Yeah.
It gets really old really fast.
Right.
It gets old for me to produce. I can't imagine what it's like for the listeners. But then I'll get a gem of a script and I'm like, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
This will keep someone's attention through the ad break because they just want to hear it because it's funny or because it's just something different.
But there's so many people that go, oh, I don't listen to the radio. And then you mention an ad and they'll go, oh, yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
you know
done
what
that before
I mean?
where someone's
it
like...
happens all the time. It's very subliminal.
Yeah. Some people will be like, oh, I don't listen to the radio. But did you hear this ad? It was so good. And I'm like, yeah, I made that ad. Of course I... Yeah.
How did you hear it if you weren't listening to the radio? And they go, oh, I guess I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. There is value in radio ads, and there is value in that kind of stuff. But it's very much a numbers game. Yeah. Over and over again, subliminally, it is getting into people's heads. You know?
Right. And it's different. It's a different game being a radio DJ, being on the radio versus being on the internet and being on social media. And even social media is separated. It's different to be on Instagram than it is to be on TikTok, than it is to be on YouTube.
Different algorithms.
To be on whatever platform you're on. And so you just kind of have to figure out what works for you. And it seems like you're doing a pretty good job of trying everything to then be like, all right, this is the thing that are working.
Yeah. My number one goal is to give people a good time.
Yeah.
And if I can pay the bills while giving people a good time, I'm going to try to find a way to do it.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't want to sacrifice the good time in exchange for paying the bills. That's not on the table for me.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure people are having a good time.
Yeah. And it's always tough because there are certain creators that I see where they do an ad or something. I'm like, you sold out. And it's like, no, they still have to just, they have to just do it.
You have to.
And don't, for anyone that does see that, it's like, don't think that way because people will. And it's just like, no, they're just, someone offered them a lot of money to make this video. So they're like, okay, sure.
Well, and I think that there's no such thing as selling out anymore.
No, because that's literally, again, it's how you pay the bills. Yeah. Is it selling out to work? No.
Back when I was a teenager, it was like, if any like big name actor did a commercial for like Tide or something like that, you'd be like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
But now it's not like that.
And now they're doing
Jimmy Fallon can do whatever the heck he wants, and we're just like, good for him. He just made some money off of that. And then other comedians, good job, made some money. You know who does a really good job that I really look up to is Conan O'Brien. His podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. When he launches into an ad, I want to hear it. Because he is ad-libbing and making fun of the sponsor while he's talking about it. Mm-hmm. And the cool sponsors understand that it's working. Yeah. The dumb ones, we've both dealt with dumb sponsors that are just like, please don't make fun of us. Yeah. They don't get it. But the ones that do get it are when Conan O'Brien makes fun of State Farm while pushing State Farm, and State Farm is getting business because they remembered State Farm. Right. You know what I mean? Because Conan made it really, really funny at their expense, and they don't care.
Well, and part of being in the radio advertising world, some of the best ads I've done have nothing to do with selling that business. Mm-hmm. It's all about catching the attention of the listener so that they remember your name later. Yup. It's all about name recognition later down the road. How often do you hear a car commercial, and how many people are actually in need of buying a car right now? Nobody is. It's very rare that someone hears a car commercial and is like, actually, I do need to go buy a car. Yeah. No, that never happens. But if you can say, hey, you've got this name recognition in the back of your head because you've heard these funny ads for the last 5 years. Yeah. Then when you do need to buy a car, it's like, well, obviously I'm going to go to those guys because I know them. I feel like I know them. I've literally never met anybody there. Yeah. But I feel like I know them.
I've made dozens of videos over at Findlay Hyundai. Yeah. Right here in town. Did anybody look at the video and go, I'm going to go get me a Hyundai? No. But when they're shopping for a car, that's going to be on their short list. Yeah. Because they've heard it said so many times, and they remember laughing at this while hearing.
Yeah, and that's exactly the part, right? Is hearing like, oh, these guys don't take things so seriously. Yeah. Because buying a car is such a stressful thing. It's like if you can go somewhere where it's like, oh, I know these guys are down for a good time. It's a little more. It's a little more of a push in that direction to say, hey, those guys are going to be a little less stress-inducing. Let's just go to those guys because they will give us a car. Mm-hmm. I know it's going to be a good deal, and I know they're not going to hassle us, and it's just going to be a good time. And that's the part of advertising people will eventually, kind of latch onto subliminally. They'll never actually outright be like, I'm going to go to those guys because of this reason. But it's always something that's in the back of their head, whether they know it or not.
Well, the best ones are the ones who understand. One of them would be the National Parks Twitter feed.
My favorite thing.
Oh my gosh. They're on Threads, they're on Twitter is a wasteland now, but they're threads, man. They do such a good job. And I'm waiting for the moment where another administration looks at it and goes, no more jokes.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean?
Wendy's is one of those.
Wendy's is
they
another
just
one.
roast people.
Oh, they're
That's
so
all they're
good.
doing. And literally,
so good.
I see these and I'm just like, I'm not going to lie, I kind of want Wendy's now.
Yeah. Arby's. Like Jon Stewart on The Daily Show has ripped Arby's so many hard times of like saying they give him diarrhea and all of these things and that it's made out of horse meat or whatever. Arby's gets it. And they're not upset.
Yeah, they roll with the punches.
They roll with the punches. Yeah. And they got the meats. What the meat is made out of, who knows?
Who knows?
But everybody is laughing and going to get a beef and cheddar because they remembered it. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, that's a part of it. That's part of the radio gig. It's a part of the social media gig. It's something that you're doing. What's the future for Mikey? Are you just enjoying being on the radio? You enjoying social media? And you're just like, hey, I'm here to stay for a while.
Well, I'm enjoying radio for as long as they'll have me. That's the thing that pays my bills is being on the radio. But also, I still enjoy making videos, and I really enjoy doing YouTube. So, I mean, for the person who's listening to this, find me on YouTube, Mikey and the Missus, and I'll keep on making stuff whether you watch it or not. I'll do my best to keep on making those things.
Yeah. I recommend the video where you listen to jazz for a week.
Oh,
that one was one of my favorites, where you start off and you're just like, I hate jazz. And then by the end of it, there was an appreciation for it.
Well, I realized that I am a grumpy man. Like, I even at Disneyland, I'll find a way to have a bad time. And I don't like that about myself. So I made a list of things that I don't like. And I want to just keep on trying to convince myself to at least appreciate the things that I don't like. And just to be a better person. So, and I started with jazz. So
I like that. That's good. I was in jazz band in high school. So I do have an appreciation for jazz. Mm-hmm. And do I listen to it regularly? Never. No. I do not listen to it. But like when it comes on or something in a movie or whatever, I'm just like, it's pretty good too. Yeah. My wife hates it too because something will come on and I'll be like, oh, it's this song. And she'll be like, how do you even know that? And I'll be like, jazz band.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, I was a nerd in high school. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
You married a nerd.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a good one.
So I'm going to look at my other. It's a pretty long list of things I hate. So jazz was my first one. I'll try to find another one. Sometimes it'll work. Sometimes it won't. You'll have to find out. You know.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks.
We'll send people your direction. Mikey and the Missus on Instagram and YouTube, as you mentioned. TikTok for now.
Yep.
And of course the radio show. For those of you outside of Southern Utah. Planet 1051 app. You could listen that way. MyPlanet1051.com.
We put our best bits on Spotify. I'll be better at that.
There you go. I love it. So, Mikey, thank you for sitting down with me. This is fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Mikey for being the first ever guest here on the Creator Archive. And it's so fun to talk with him. We kind of talked about it throughout the interview process, but we do kind of share a wall where our studio spaces are. I run more out of the sports studio, and he's out of the Planet 1051 studio. We're next door neighbors inside of our office building. So we get the opportunity to talk a lot, which is great because I've been kind of following him for a long time, since before he ever even came over to my offices. He was working at a competitor radio station, and I still loved his content then. And so I'm glad that we're neighbors now. It makes it really fun. So great to talk to him. One thing that we talked about a little bit in that episode was the TikTok ban. Now, today, I'm not going to dive into it too much, but there have been some things that have happened since Mikey and I spoke. So Mikey and I spoke earlier on last week, and over the course of the weekend, TikTok gets banned on Saturday afternoon. Saturday morning, it's back, and there's kind of some shady business going on with it. I want to see how the rest of this plays out, because I'm sure we'll get some more answers. I would think we'll get some more answers in the next few weeks, but I'm just not so sure. For those of you who aren't on TikTok, maybe, and if you're not, a lot of people are, but if you're not on TikTok, if you're not up to date with what's going on, TikTok was banned. It was told that it was going to be banned as of Sunday the 19th. On Saturday the 18th, everyone in the United States, or even if you have a United States-based account, it went dark. TikTok goes dark. It left you with a notification that was basically just saying it's not available for the United States, but that they were working on getting a fix. It was down for, I think they said like 13 hours, and it was back up and running again. Now, there's a lot here I will get into. I won't get into it too much in this episode because I want to save that for next episode. Like I said, I want to see how things play out with this TikTok ban to see if more happens over the course of the next few weeks. So the next episode, we won't have a guest per se. I might grab somebody. I might grab a guest. We'll see. But we're going to talk about the TikTok ban in its entirety and in its in what we know up to that point, which hopefully we know more in 2 weeks than we know now, just because so much has already happened. I don't want to dive into it too much now, but we will later. So in the meantime, thank you so much for listening to this podcast, watching this podcast over on YouTube or wherever you've got your podcast. I just am glad that you're here. And stay tuned, subscribe so you guys don't miss out on an episode. And go ahead and follow on social media pages. I've got Instagram, I've got TikTok. I'm on a few different other places. I'm trying to expand, broaden that horizon. I'm a horrible social media manager when it comes to my own stuff. So I'm trying to get better at that. But I appreciate you listening, watching the show. And until next time, we'll see you.